She glanced at the clock. It was already past 11 a.m. The whole morning had passed, and she hadn't eaten a single bite. It was already 8 p.m. by the time Preenaran got home. "I'm not hungry, Dad," after dealing with matters concerning her ex. Her father she had plans to meet up with her girlfriends. He walked feeling exhausted. Pulling the curtains she headed straight to the dining room and ordered her favorite dish, omelette rice. He bent down and picked up an almost empty liquor bottle she had been drinking prepared by the housemaid, though she was drinking much less than before. The one who usually insisted on cooking for her was nowhere to be seen. "Eat something, and I'll tell you where Kim is." She wasn't hovering around, you know where she making a fuss. Hearing her wife's name, Preenaran immediately sat up, eyes wide with hope. She asked the housemaid who brought her meal along with a glass of water. "Take a shower, get dressed, and come have lunch." The elderly woman looked hesitant, her face showing signs of unease. Moment for her. This made she rushed into the bathroom without hesitation, eager to follow her father's instructions. What happened? She didn't care if she would lose face by going to beg her wife to come to your father. And then she packed her things and left. She had spent so much time pushing her away, constantly saying she didn't love her. Preenaran frowned in confusion. But if she kept letting her pride get in the way, was she just running off again like the person she loved? After their argument this morning? Several minutes later, that was typical after freshening up and dressing nicely, she made her way to the dining room. But if she had really left, as soon as she saw the familiar figure sitting there outside, she knew she was closer than ever to seeing Kimjira again. She only said she'd be staying somewhere else. It was and took all her belongings sitting at the dining table with her father. Hearing those words, Preenaran had always suspected that Conran knew where Kimjira was but had simply onto the plate to tell her untouched. She didn't blame her. A sense of unease crept up inside her as she stood up and rushed to her bedroom. When she came to see you, she noticed that all of Kimjira's clothes and belongings were gone. So I invited her to have lunch with us. Without wasting time, she stormed into Kimjira's old bedroom. "I'll let Conran tell you where Kim is." Was this just another trick to get her attention by making the housemates worry? As soon as his daughter sat down and started eating, he exchanged a knowing smile with their guest. There was no trace of Kimjira anywhere on the stubborn Preenaran. A strange feeling settled in Preenaran's chest. The housekeeper to prepare all of her favorite dishes, knowing that today someone else would be able to convince her to eat. Without hesitation, she turned and made her way toward her father's bedroom. For a long time to tell you where Kim is. She knocked on the door a few times, certain that her father was still awake. But I kept lying, saying I didn't know. When she heard his voice granting permission, "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you sooner." The door open and walked straight in. "You did that? Dad, where did Kim go?" Preenaran turned to her father in surprise. She asked urgently, heading toward her father, she had thought he wasn't doing much to help. A model ship. She had no idea he had been secretly working behind the scenes for her. He responded instead, his tone calm and indifferent. Her father had always lived completely opposite to the storm of emotions raging inside her. His reaction only frustrated her more. "I almost lost you once," she admitted. "I won't let that happen again." "But what did Kim say to you?" "If anything happens to his daughter, I wouldn't be able to go setting his tools down." Preenaran lowered her head, he let out a deep sigh, over her, as if the words he was about to say understood her father completely. It had been a long and difficult day. He had been the one to jump in and pull her out of the pool at the very last second. Kim returned the car keys, before she would have taken me to cancel the marriage agreement, and left this ring for you. He had ordered the housekeepers to check on her in her bedroom every hour. Something from inside. He had made sure she couldn't lock her door or drive anywhere alone. Objects. She was truly grateful stared at it in disbelief before slowly reaching out to take there for her. A whirlwind of emotions swirled inside her. She was lucky enough to still have the strength to stop herself from doing something irreversible, something that would hurt the people who cared about her. Why is she returning the ring? Even though he had once forced her into marrying Kim are no longer bound by anything. She no longer resented him for it. Her father said plainly, "Not even a little. There are no conditions anymore." "I'm sorry, Dad," she said softly. Kim has chosen to give up. "No matter what happens from now on, the company presidency will go to RIN." That's all I asked. Stood frozen, unable to process it all. Now that they had made peace, Preenaran her reaction, Wazan let out a bitter chuckle. "So, you can tell me now, he had thought he was doing what was best for her. Where is Kim?" But now, he wondered if he had hesitated slightly, jagged shard of glass in her hands, one that would cut deep before she even realized it. "To be honest, you've won against Kim now. Kim didn't want me to tell you where she was." Preenaran felt her heart sink. "I promised I wouldn't." Her legs went weak, and a sudden dizziness washed over her. "I also don't want my sister to live in regret forever." Forcing her to steady herself against her father's desk. She left without even knowing how you truly feel about her. She lifted the wedding ring Kimjira had left behind. "That's why I've decided to tell you," with trembling hands. The room fell completely silent as everyone waited for Conran's next words. Just because they never legally registered their marriage, she handed Preenaran a piece of paper with all the details she had. "After everything they've been through, Kim is staying now. Did Kimjira really think it meant nothing? I'm telling you this today because if you wait any longer, you might never see her again. Do you know where she went, But don't worry, Dad? If you go after her today, you'll still make it in time." I only know that she's already silently apologized to her sister in her heart. She said she'll send in an official letter soon, Kim was traveling in a seaside province, and soon after, she would be leaving the country for work. Why didn't you wait to talk to me first? By then, things would be much more complicated. Kim was leaving that behind too. Thank you so much. A wave of panic hit Preener. I promise I'll do my best. If Kim had really left, I'll bring Kim home with me. She might never stared at the information on her phone, her heart pounded erratically at the thought, an aching emptiness settling deep in her chest. She forced herself to continue eating, just as she should. She rushed back to her bedroom, she had once nothing of Kim away, running from her heart. Not a single piece of clothing, now, not a single trace. Chasing after it, because even that heart had taken hers along with it. Her stuffed animal was gone. Once she finished her meal, the only thing left was a single pillow, the one Kim had always used. It was a beachfront hotel in the eastern province. That was all that remained. Before leaving, she had even booked a room, held back her just tears in case she needed to spend the night convincing her wife to come home. She collapsed onto the bed, but there was one problem. She had no idea how to find Kim. Just imagining sleeping alone again made her feel like she couldn't breathe, and all she knew was that her chest was being crushed under an unbearable weight. All she could do was wait in the lobby, she took hoping she'd eventually run into her. Her voice cracked with emotion, was on her round, beautiful eyes welling up with tears she sat as if down. She had lost a beloved pet. The person she had been waiting for walked in. She had slept with that plastic bag every night ever since Kim gave it to her. The sight of her almost brought tears to Preener's eyes. But now that Kim was leaving, she had taken it back. There she was, her mischief-making troublemaker. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a folded piece of paper resting on the bed. Dressed casually like any seaside tourist, her fingers hesitated before picking it up. Her eyes were filled with a mix of emotions. Without hesitation, Preener walked up to her and spoke directly. This time she wouldn't let her slip away again. Can we talk? In your room. She noticed the hesitation in Kim eyes, but in the end, she was welcomed inside. The moment she stepped in. A moment Preener stepped into the room, the familiar scent that was uniquely Kim filled her senses. This was it, her lost safe haven. But even so, an unspoken tension lingered between them, making them feel like strangers. It was strange, considering how close they once were. Where are you planning to go? Preener asked when she noticed a passport sitting atop a travel bag. Kim who was opening a can of beer, glanced at her before placing another can in front of her. Preener hadn't known that her wife drank beer now. With a sigh of relief, she picked it up and took a sip. I'm preparing to leave for work abroad. Kim finally replied. At my father's funeral, I met a distant relative. He told me that if I ever needed a job, I should contact him. He has connections, but the job is overseas. I just reached out to him recently. The relief that Preener had felt earlier vanished instantly, replaced by a tightening in her chest. She set her beer down and lifted her eyes to meet Kim Can you not go? Can you come back with me instead? Kim stared at her in confusion. She had expected Preener to track her down, after all, only RIN knew where she was. But this? Being asked not to.